Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, sir. How you doing this Thursday evening?
I am fine.
That's good. Happy Friday Eve.
Yeah, I have my tea. I have drinks. I always surround myself by drinks, and that's why, yeah. But
Yeah. I have my red Solo cup myself right now, so the pipes will be nice and lubricated.
Yeah, I'm staring at this first news item because I feel like it came out of nowhere for me, and I have no idea what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
apparently, Kevin Feige has teased Phase 5 of the MCU in the June 23rd issue of Total Film.
Yeah, this was one of those like random things that dropped earlier this week, and in between all the Ezra Miller noise, which we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, so Total Film, they dropped a new issue today. It's Sci-Fi Geek Journal. This particular issue obviously is focusing on Thor: Love and Thunder, and part of the interview that Kevin Feige gave to Total Film teased that Phase 4 is winding down, and they are planning on announcing some big things for the next phase in the coming months. So that was the big tease that came out of this article about Phase 5. Of course, everybody, and he talked about how it's going to be a big saga, etc. So of course, everyone on the internet just jumped to, oh, it's going to be Secret Wars. And which I know there's like the Secret Invasion series with Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn and stuff. So there, it's coming. I think it's in production now for Disney Plus and other tie-ins to potential Secret Wars. Given that we have all the multiverse stuff now, so that was it. And of course, we'll have Disney D23 coming out. I think in September, if I recall, and of course. We also have Comic-Con coming up this next month. So, and I think the Marvel Studios is supposed to be there. So there's definitely two big events coming up over the next few months where I'm sure we'll be getting a lot more info from the man who can do no wrong, Kevin Feige.
And from the man who can do no wrong to talking about the DCU and their Ezra Miller issue.
Yeah, I know it's funny. I know last week before we started recording, we just talked offline about all this Ezra Miller stuff, just started catching up on the latest craziness, and then today it was just like, wow. Well, there's a couple things. I think over the weekend, I think Deadline had an article about all of Ezra's antics up to that point, and one of the things they did note was that the studio actually did try to get him some help, but help, all you can do is just lead the person to the help. You can't force them to do it, and apparently sources basically were like, after the Flash, assuming that the Flash comes out, which it's a $200 million film, so it's going to come out in some form or fashion. Maybe, I don't know, after this latest stuff, who knows. But but they were just like, nope, this will be it. Ezra is not going to be, assuming that there are any future DC films that feature the Flash, Ezra Miller will not be the Flash. So that was earlier this week. And then today, I guess there was a story, I guess, in Rolling Stone magazine that talked about Ezra being in Vermont with this 25-year-old mom with 3 kids, ages 1 to 5, and apparently they're all holed up there, and it's apparently the place is a big cannabis farm, and there are unsecured firearms all over the place at this house. And I guess the kid's father apparently went to try to get the kids out of the situation, because it's just clearly, from what it sounds like a very unstable, dangerous situation. Of course, the counterpoint to this is, I think the ex-wife or for the kid's father was saying, no, the father's actually abusive. So it just sounds like whatever is going on here. It's just a big mess that, I saw someone tweet, probably the best tweet ever. It's like, this is the difference between Marvel and DC, because, in DC, when Marvel saw the issues with Terrence Howard, they cut there whenever they didn't invite him to come back as Rhodey. Whereas DC is just like, oh yeah, we'll just roll with Ezra. Nothing to see here.
I don't feel like they're doing that. I feel like they're in a very precarious situation where, like you said, they have a $200 million film.
Yeah.
He's a star. They've already shot it. They've already spent the money. Yeah. It has Michael Keaton. There was all this momentum. It's a huge character who's appeared in other films. And so people know him as the Flash. Like, this isn't his debut in any way.
Right.
And yet all of this is coming out, and now the story has changed, and they're scratching their head because there's the ethical thing to do, but there's also, they already lose so much money on their DC stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing about it. Actually, so some of the things actually have been profitable. I mean, I think Aquaman was like $1 billion film.
No, I know. It was a joke, Will. I know that movies are successful, despite my personal opinion about the quality of the DC universe.
Now you are true about Batman v Superman. That you can say that.
Yeah. But regardless, I think that they are trying to figure out what to do. I'm not surprised. I was not surprised if somebody's going to come out and say, yeah, Warner Brothers is officially done with Ezra Miller. It's like, no shit.
Yeah. It's like
anything beyond this. The question is, what do you do with this current film?
Right.
And especially because I'm sure Michael Keaton is like, this is why I never wanted to go back there.
Well, I mean, you gotta hate it for Michael Keaton and even Ben Affleck. I mean, because this was, and because Andy Muschietti as well. I mean, this film was going to be a real like game changer, and was going to be like the flagship to kick off the next phase of DC films. And now, with all the shit that's been going on with Ezra, it's just like at least for the chattering geek class, which is the echo chamber of Twitter is not necessarily real life, as we all know. But that's going to be, there are enough influencers in the chattering geek class that will really make it very difficult for this film to do well. And like you said, that's the big conundrum that Warner Discovery's having now, because on the one hand, it's like, well, how many, there are a lot of people who will still go see this film because they are probably not following this stuff very closely, right? And also they're probably in DC, and Warner's probably also thinking, well, we have it slated for June of 2023 right now, so maybe stuff will die down. But I mean, every single day it seems that there's something new in the headlines for this guy. So, and even
if, I think even if it'll die down, people are going to immediately bring it up the next time you drop a trailer.
Right.
The next time you try, like, it's the headlines can go away, but I think something that big, for those who know about it, especially if they are following this and telling people go see movies or whatnot, I think that it's always going to be associated with it. Like, so it's just, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh man.
The new owner is like, man, I know we joked about it, I think before, maybe in our while we're recording, or maybe in our offline conversation about like, I like spend all this money for this company with hoping to have like all these hits, and then I get like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and this Ezra Miller stuff. I can't just enjoy the properties and just let them stand on their own merit. But no, we gotta like talk about his scandal. alt screen stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Moving on to the shows this week. So we did get a Obi-Wan Kenobi finale.
Yep.
Will, what are your thoughts on the finale?
Loved it. I totally unapologetically full-throated loved the finale. And it's one of those things that I think for me, and I should have, I didn't think about it until I was preparing for today, and I think, and I guess I've done this, but I'm going to say what it is, and that one of the things we always talk about with shows and stuff are stakes, and we know the end of this story here. So any stakes or any situation that they put out in this series, at the end of the day, we knew everything was going to work out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think as I was watching the series and what I learned to do, and I think why I was able to enjoy it, was I reconciled that I know what the outcome's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm watching this show not because I know that all the twists and turns. I'm watching it because I want to see how it all happened. I mean, I know what ends up happening, but I want to see the story. And I was watching it, especially the finale of, I want to see how this happened. I want to see why Darth Vader in A New Hope said, it's a presence I haven't felt since. And, and all those moments. And then once I realized that what I've been doing over the last 6 weeks, as far as watching this series, or I guess 4 weeks, given that they dropped 2 episodes or whatever. But once I got to that place and realized that that's what I've been doing, I think that's why I've been able to enjoy the series overall.
Wait, you lost me. What have
just
you been
basically doing? Just basically, I know what the outcome's going to be. So, so I just, instead of like quibbling about like there's no stakes because I know what's going to happen, I just enjoyed seeing how all these things, how everything unfolded to get us to the place where we are when we get to A New Hope. So I just watched the story for what it is, knowing that, yes, I know Luke's not going to die when Reva goes after him, but I want to see, I just want to see the story about how Luke was able to not be scarred for getting kidnapped by Reva. And so I was just watching it for what it was, which was just telling me, sharing the story about what happened, and knowing that they can't, as far as canon, they're not going to be able to do too much creative liberties with it, because if they did, then they would be, breaking the various rules that we already know and accept in other live action shows. Right.
I mean, it was the problem from the get-go with this story, is that you're telling a story that takes place between 2 very important dates in a well-established universe. So you're kind of stuck. And and for a lot of people wanted this story to be told, even knowing that. And so I think to your point, it is unfair to just criticize the show because of the lack of stakes when going into it. Like, what did you expect, y'all? Exactly. You literally asked for this story. They are telling this story. They can't change certain events. They did the best that they could. And I think that's why the most creative choice I think they'd had in terms of overall storytelling was with Leia. And that inclusion and that very profound relationship, which this finale cemented to me why this show is important. And it goes back to sorry, I keep saying all of the ones except for the movie I'm referencing, but The Rise of Skywalker. This is why Leia named her son Ben.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I remember everyone coming out of The Force Awakens and being like, well, why? She hardly, what? And the question that y'all forgot about needed to be answered. They finally answered it, and I appreciate it. And to me, it still blows my mind just how similar this story is. And I know it's done purposely, is to like the trilogy that we just got. It's done a little bit better. It's not as hokey, but it's still very similar. This finale is fine. I've not been hot on this series like from the get-go. And so it's not surprised that Will loves this finale, and I'm like, okay, it did what it was supposed to do. Like I wasn't blown away by anything. I wasn't surprised by anything. I wasn't disappointed by anything. I guess overall, I'm just underwhelmed by this whole thing. Very underwhelmed. But not to a detriment where I'll just nitpick about little things. I did like the moment during the fight sequence with the broken mask and their use of the two voices that we equate with the voice of Anakin and the voice of Vader merging together. I really did like that. I wish that scene had gone on longer though. And there was more dialogue, which I guess another reason why I'm so underwhelmed is because they could have done so much more with flashbacks. They really could have to really build up the guilt that Obi felt and the betrayal that, because the prequels are what the prequels are, and a lot of people wanted more character development. So I think that there were some things that they could have explored more of, ironically. But I don't know if it was like a contract issue or what it was, but it just felt like these episodes were really short. And
I agree with you that the character in the fighting sequence, especially the when Obi-Wan was trapped under the rocks and stuff, clearly they really mind the journey that we've seen with Leia, the series. Of course, we heard the voiceover work from the voices from the past with Anakin and Luke, visuals of him, and so they use that well as far as from Obi's perspective. I wish they did a little bit wish they had done more of Darth in this particular episode's perspective during that fight. And I mean, one thing I'm glad they did not do, they just let the image satisfy itself, is he had the high ground. And I'm glad he did not deliver that line, because that would have been like really would have taken me out of that moment. I think the visual of it was just powerful in and of itself. But I do wish they would have like had his perspective on that, his perspective, like from the fight on Mustafar, to like really drive home why he just was so hell-bent on getting Obi-Wan. And especially because, I mean, I think, the series, it's overall itself definitely made Palpatine's boarding speech to Vader, why it resonated so much as far as like let it go. And and so I think, so I thought that was a good moment there at the end of the series. But I wish we had a little bit more of that. But the fight, and really what did it for me with this finale was the whole fight. And I think it was just truly the acting. Ewan McGregor carried the series, and I think that moment when he was and Darth was having that stare down, and he was looking at the broken, the helmet split in half, and and the voice, the sound work there, and just like you said, it was just amazing. But the tears and and the lightsaber blade, just the whole mood with the change of the blue and the red, it all just like I was just I watched the episode twice, and I mean it was just so like powerful for me, and really that was the real payoff that I felt like, okay, yeah, this is what this is, as I said, this is why I wanted this story to be told, and I just rode with it as it came to me, instead of like my fandom story that I had concocted in my head, how this intervening years had transpired. But this confrontation that we had been the fight of the century, as we rematch of the century, whatever you want to call it, have been teased about. It paid off for me at 100%, and I really loved it. And and as I was watching it, and like how he talked about how he I killed Anakin Skywalker, and just tying up those bows from all the threads from A New Hope, and just it just landed different. This just landed for me really well. And then also just thinking about the end of Rebels, season 2, landed for me. Again, similar situation, except it was Ashoka and Vader, and again landed this all those things landed for me as a fan, that was very satisfying. So the main and the big takeaway for me too was just like, Obi-Wan, you had him twice, and if you had just I get it on the Stoffer, but and I know you can't break the rules because you can't kill him, but it's just like just thinking how the whole story would have, like, if Obi-Wan had just finished the job, and if how things could have turned out differently for the galaxy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we
But
don't know
yeah, we don't know.
what
Yeah.
would have happened. Like, this isn't a what if.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a what if. Yeah. That's the next Star Wars they need to do. Star Wars. What if Anakin, what if Obi-Wan had finished off Vader?
Oh, but seriously, what if? Oh man. And on that what if note, how about we go to the MCU with Kamala Khan, who meets the Jinn, and also all signs are indicating she is part Jinn.
Maybe.
Why do you say maybe?
Well, the blue skin. I thought I tossed this out last week, and then when I saw the opening of this week's episode, I saw
she's Kree.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, yeah.
But it was her great grandmother who was in that temple too at the beginning, right?
Yeah. So it's the great grandmother, and as we established last week, the great grandmother and Cameron's mother are two different people.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that was the great grandmother, and then I can't remember her name. Yeah, but Cameron's mother, was the other person there.
Right. She didn't look Kree.
No. I'm saying they got the bangle from the Kree. That's.
Oh yeah. I know that. That's where I was just like, because I said Kamala is part. Part
Jinn. Yeah.
Yeah, I said Kamala's part Jinn.
Yeah.
Will.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
It's
I'm sorry.
so confusing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you there. Yeah.
The bangle was once held by a Kree. I wouldn't say it is Kree. Because I actually did a little bit of research. Okay, guys, I listened to a few things, and they explained all the Easter eggs, because let's face it, I'm not going to read anything about this, but so I'm starting to understand the hints, and I forgot about it. I forgot Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel appeared at the end of Shang-Chi.
That's right. She did. I had forgotten that too.
She did.
Yep.
And And this episode, we open and there's a clear 10 Rings reference, and then we have the Kree reference.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like the subtlety. I can appreciate the subtlety because sometimes, or not sometimes, majority of time with these Marvel shows, there's a lot of obvious Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, the Easter eggs are taking a big backseat to the story that they're telling with Kamala and her family and her culture, and I totally understand why it makes a lot of sense, and I like that. I like that they're wanting you to go on this journey with Kamala,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you least expect it, they will remind you that this is leading to a greater story.
Yeah.
But they're gonna hold out because they don't want anybody going all like hypothesis theory and boosting their expectations or anything. But this episode was good. I like that we got a bad guy, even though they started off good with a very like quick switch.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like maybe that was something missing with the first few episodes.
Yeah.
Even though this is an origin story where they're trying to tell this origin story in a very quick pace. Yeah. I think that's what I wanted to say. I don't know.
Yeah, no, threw you there with my Kree, like just getting my Kree and my Jin like mixed up there, but I hear you. I was okay with the quick change because normally we're like, and I think back to like Moon Knight and some other shows as well where we get these middle episodes of just like just filler, for lack of a better term, that just kind of muddles along, and we're kind of like, okay, but and then they get to the fifth episode, and then we're all like, oh shit, they gotta wrap up a lot of stuff, from that they do this big reveal in the penultimate, and then we just have the finale to wrap all these threads up. So I'm glad that, like you said, that I think they did structurally. I'm liking the way that they're rolling this season out so far. With okay, we'll make we just quickly get to who is one of the two big bads for this season, and so that I think that's really going to work well moving forward, because we, like you said, I mean, given all the other little Easter eggs that they've given to us so far, this is a good lead in to what will ultimately lead her to the Marvels film that we'll see down the road.
Right. And on top of that, they also are doing a good job about bringing in social topics.
Yeah.
And to make this world where these superheroes are known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And ground it a lot more in the world that we know, minus the superheroes. And I found it interesting as we do both of these shows, talk about these simultaneously, and they're on total opposite sides of the rated scale.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It is very interesting to see similar, not even similar, but the commentary that both the boys and Miss Marvel have shed on certain characters.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the Department of Damage Control, and their profiling, and with Kamala. And so, I mean, this right, you're right. I mean, there's just so many things, and just also various insensitivities, like, and I've talked about this, on our prior reviews of the show, and it seems like every episode, it just like it continues to like speak to me, because I like having familiarity with South Asian and just and cultural norms, and as far as not only that, but also Muslim and Hindu and other things. It just for example, whenever they walked into the temple, into the mosque, and they didn't take their shoes off, I was like, oh boy. I mean, just like you just know, whenever you go into a mosque or a Hindu temple or whatever, shoes off. Even when you come into even a person's home, I mean, it's just like, you don't wear your shoes in the house. It's like disrespect. So it's just like, those things. And then the profiling, like, oh, we got, like, to your point about the boys, which one we'll get to with A-Train and things with Blue Hawk here soon. But in Miss Marvel, they're like, oh, we're looking for a brown person. We got the brown one. Wasn't it necessarily Kamala? It was just like, oh, we got one of the Jen. She's brown. That's the one we want. So, I mean, it's just all those little beats that I think this is why this show, I think, the more I watch it, is like Marvel, the MCU. They tried it. They tried it in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and they tried it, in other shows along the way. But the creative team from this, with this show, saw all the things that were done in the prior MCU shows, and like so far have learned how to adapt these cultural elements organically into the story, that I sometimes felt a little that still flowed naturally. Whereas like in Falcon and Winter Soldier, it was like just kind of like beating you over the head obvious with it.
Yeah. There's more authenticity with how the show is being written and structured. It's interesting that they can have those beats that are similar to what the boys writers do, and yet the tone is totally opposite. Where this is very much a lighthearted family show, but just because it's a family show, there are important, like, it's not all happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah,
I mean,
and it's really teaching those. It's really like hitting those lessons, and in a way that's just like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just very, where, like I said, we're Falcon and Winter Soldier, where we had Sam giving that speech at the end, that was just sort of like, oh, it was so like inauthentic and forced, and it was like, you tell they like forced it into the story. Here, it's just like, here's what's going on, y'all.
Yeah, because I don't think it's a lesson. I think that the way that this show is using it, and the way the boys use it, is it's more like, no, this is reality. Like, this is the world. We're not trying to stand on a podium and say anything or have a big speech about it. We're writing this world so that it aligns with reality more. And that's why, to your point, it comes off, it's more relatable, as opposed to hit you over the head and just like here's why racism is bad. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
We know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think, and like I said, I mean, it just flows. I mean, there was some moments where I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier, for example, just keeping it within the MCU, was trying to get to that place, but it just, again, there were moments where it just felt forced. Here, it's just very natural, and it's just, and I think it's a real service that the writers are doing for all the characters in Miss Marvel, that they are just allowing them to be just normal. Well, not normal, but I guess
They're
more
allowing them to be
authentic.
three-dimensional.
Yeah, more authentic reactions, and yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like Nakia and Kamala's interaction is just feel, and even Bruno, it just feels more natural instead of very stilted. We're acting this. It's more like, oh, we were, if you didn't know any better, you would think these people were real friends in real life. Even that's not just putting on a performance.
Poor Brian. Poor
Yeah.
Brian.
Or Brian. Yeah.
Poor Brian. Yeah, and I just can't wait for them to explain the Brown Jovi backstory.
Why not?
Where we get like a music video or something. I don't know.
We need a video. If they
Just
can do it,
he should show up in Thor: Love and Thunder for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If we can do a video and a special YouTube video for the Captain America, the musical, then we can definitely do we can definitely get one for a watch one drop tomorrow. Brown.
It's funny because last week we were talking about Joker 2 and how it's going to be a musical, and we haven't seen this genre do a musical. And then the next night I watched The Boys, and there's a musical number. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's like they know.
Yeah.
It's like they were tipped off about that, and they're like, no, we're going to do it first, and it's going to be really cute and hokey, and I mean, we're even going to foreshadow it in the first episode where there's a similar moment, and oh man, I thought it was so great.
I thought about you as soon as I saw it. I got spoiled on Twitter that there was a musical, but then I thought about our conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Frenchie. I mean, he finally gets it. He finally gets what he has wanted for 3 seasons, both of them, and then their moment gets taken away. Yeah, I mean, they still had it. They still had the kiss.
Yeah.
But we will see where that leaves them with Frenchie being taken. But to go into The Boys' latest episode, and to continue what we were just talking about with Kamala, the A-Train and Blue Hawk scene. Soup lives matter. I just, it is so obvious, and yet I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I did. It was like I cringed and I laughed at the same time, just like I did as soon as I heard it the first time when I watched that episode, because this is the genius about this show. I was like, this episode really reminded me why I love The Boys. I mean, it hit, because really, there was the moment, it's The Boys, so you're going to have your violent moments and stuff, but they kind of dialed that stuff back this week and just really just focused on like a lot of these character moments. And these moments like A-Train, like, when I think, when you think about A-Train, I think where he was like spoofing the Pepsi commercial, and then we get to this, and then we have this scripted corporate moment, and I think about like Pride Month and like all the like corporate and Juneteenth. I mean, just happened, this past weekend, and how corporate America like latches on to like these really important things and then try to commercialize it. And I think about The Boys in this moment where, Blue Hawk gives this like inauthentic speech, this fake speech, because Black Lives Matter. And then when he's really challenged on it, and his reaction again, like we see happen, and it was just and this whole, the whole All Lives Matter crowd and everything. It just like it was just genius.
Yeah. I agree. This episode also reminded me how brilliant this show can be. And talking about A-Train, what I found interesting is he's the one who gets Livewire killed in the previous. So how they use these characters in the they can be like, their morals can be put back in place. Oh no, they can't.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, and they've done that. And I think the difference with this season and previous season is they've done that pretty consistently with the soup characters.
Right.
And this season in particular, we're seeing that done to the actual heroes, to the boys, with Butcher, who's no longer sober and has now had sex with Maeve. Yeah. Again, did not see that one coming.
Yeah. I, whenever I was watching it, I was just like, they're not going to, they did.
They did. They sure did. And and I don't know if I missed it, but how did Homelander figure that out? I don't understand.
Yeah.
That was like a big plot hole where I'm just like, but seriously, how did you know?
Maybe he sniffed. Maybe he ferreted out Butcher's DNA order or something. I don't know. Maybe too much information, but who knows?
But regardless, like that was immediately discarded as soon as like they get into the confrontation. And see, even when she tells him at the end, I hated every minute of it, a part of me is like, I don't know why, but I'm still on the fence. Like, we don't know. They haven't done flashbacks about that relationship. And so I'm very curious. Like, we still don't really even understand how they met or what. We don't know the events. So there's a lot that we don't. You can see that how it might have changed. But to his point, he's like, at some point, like, it had to have been something else. And he's clearly like, if she hated it that much or hated him that much, I don't know why he's still holding on the way he is. Because if we think about all the other female characters he's killed, who he's also had sex with, I don't know. Homelander isn't a sentimental person, but there's something about Maeve. So it boggles my mind. Like that, and I think that's a few episodes ago. I said I miss Maeve, and that's the reason why I miss Maeve, because there's this very blurry history between those two that is very interesting. It's just like his dynamic with Stan Edgar, where like you don't know all the details about their history, but they clearly know each other very well and know. So it's just, I don't know. It's this episode. It was also interesting because they kind of put Homelander on the bench in a way, where he was very much the pulling strings, doing business stuff. And not so much action from him. We got more action from Blue Hawk and from the very last moments and from Soldier Boy, but which Soldier Boy, Captain America. Oh man. Yeah.
I love how they parallel that moment from the end of Captain America, for sure. But you're right. I was thinking back to your points about Homelander and Maeve, and it's sort of like same with Stan Edgar. I mean, I don't with Homelander and Maeve. I don't think it's that video of what happened on the plane that like holds him back from doing anything to her.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Yeah, I just think that's just sort of like, I know, and I know Annie and Maeve and everyone thinks that, oh yeah, well, this is our sort of ace in the hole that if Homelander goes rogue, but
he threw that out in the first or second episode. Yeah, so that can't be it. The thing about that video though, or that moment that we have to remember though, is Homelander, again, not a very sentimental person. Very could care less about human life. Maeve wanted to stay.
Right.
he wanted to go. He forced her to go with him.
Mm-hmm.
And why did he do that? He could have just left her.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah.
So like
Well,
it's another indication that there is very much something that he's holding on to that he's never had with anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, he made, when you think about Homelander and also when you compare that and with the similar speech that Soldier Boy gave to the Crimson,
right.
Yeah, that love that they made, that twisted love that they have for these two women, I don't is Hulk, well, but the difference is Soldier Boy, whenever she rejected him, he was just like, okay. He pulled what Homelander did with uh, the what's her name from the first season, who was Edgar's predecessor. Oh gosh, Elizabeth Shue's character. I can't remember her name now.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know her name.
Yeah. He did basically, that's what Homelander did that first season. Laser nuked her right there, and we saw the parallels too. So it's very interesting, like you said, to see those parallels between Homelander and Soldier Boy. And at the end of the day, when they do have their confrontation, will Soldier Boy buddy up with Homelander? Or will they have a big showdown? Because they're very similar in their, as far as their arcs, the way things are going at this point. But also Soldier Boy's had the Russian programming too, so has that messed with his values and judgment as far as how he approaches things.
Well, there's a lot of messing with approaches, because the biggest betrayal that happened this episode was with Mother's Milk.
Oh yeah.
And like, Butcher, you're how now it's curious, because they're in a way, I feel like this season they're setting up for season 4 with Butcher. It's going to be a redemption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't know if he can ever come back to the way he's going. And even though what Huey and Annie are going through, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, the back and forth of it all, we get it. But every time they do it, the writers still manage to write it in a way that makes sense in terms of what currently is going on. Like, they're not at odds just because we need more drama. No, it makes sense with why they continuously are torn apart despite being on the same side with all of this.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the writers definitely, with Huey's motivations, and now that he can finally stand up and do something, and I think the thing that Annie was what made Huey so special for her was because he wasn't a soup, and and just kind of genuine guy, faults and all, even though he has a heart that he could wants to do all these things, but so and she was trying to get away from all these like nasty soup types, but but you're right. I mean, I think the way they structure it, where it could easily become like you said, CW melodrama, it never does.
Right. And shout out to the actress who plays Ashley.
Oh yeah.
Because that moment with her and Annie, and you see it all, the wheels, you almost even hear her say it, and then it's a turn of the knife, and she's like, oh hell no. He clearly knew Maeve and Butcher hooked up, so he's gonna hear this conversation. He's all hearing, apparently.
Yeah.
All knowing. So she isn't going to say it and lose everything, including her life, probably. So I think that this episode, because there were so many moments of, oh, good, nope.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're gonna, no, like these characters, none of them, the heroes included, are not good. Like they're not good. I mean, Annie maybe has the most, but she's also the poster child for Vought right now. So
yeah. Mother's Milk, I would say Annie and Mother's Milk are like the two probably the purest people in the show, and maybe Kamika.
Frenchie is pretty pure.
Yeah,
and Camille, but I don't know. Maybe it's because they also, yeah. There are pure characters, but you're just waiting. They're like ticking time bomb. Okay, when it's gonna be your train? I mean, they went after Butcher this season, so
right. Yeah.
and Huey, because where Butcher go, Huey follows, of course.
Huey follows, of course, and then Mother's, and then but like whenever Mother's Milk and Butcher go to the Legend, and it's like it's not a status, it's not a name, it's a level.
Yeah.
But even with that dynamic, there and the Legend, like, start pointing out to Mother's Milk, like, you still want to hang out with this guy Butcher, because the first moment he's going to do something to you. And sure enough, what happened? Butcher like gives him Mickey and like Roofy and like knocks him out so that they can lure Soldier Boy to the Crimson, so Lady Crimson. So it's just like, again, all these motivations that these characters are right. We're used to seeing the Soups doing these things, but to see our heroes this season, the boys being fractured like this, it definitely adds another element to this this season, and I think you're right. I mean, we're probably setting up for a fourth season kind of redemption arc of getting the band back together.
Yeah. Well, depending on who's standing.
Yeah.
We have had a lot of death on the boys, but just saying, sometimes you just need to kill a main character.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to. And really, this season, this episode, where the Soldier Boy, like, his presence continues to grow, and so there's a progression happening. So very curious of where that leads, and if we'll see Jensen next season or what's going on with that. So
yeah, I think he's gonna be around.
Will, do not spoil things for me.
I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just
I think he's gonna be around. You say it like you know something.
No. I think this the way things are going. I mean, we only have like what, I think 2 episodes left. So 2-3 episodes left. So yeah, so I just can't see I just can't see this character going away anytime soon. Obviously next week we got tomorrow we've got the much ballyhooed Hero-gasm episode. So so cover your eyes, kiddos, if you can't handle intense graphic things happening. Sex and orgies and all that good stuff. We saw it in Doom Patrol, so we're ready.
Yeah, just go watch the Sex Patrol episode of Doom Patrol, and that'll prepare for it.
Yeah, we'll do a compare and contrast, right?
And on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk on Twitter, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.snnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.